So that's my take on Mk.gee's tone and sound. You'll see on these tracks over here, there's not a lot of post-processing at all. I say not a lot. There's no post-processing on these. What you heard was just literally direct from my guitar going into my quad Cortex into an effects loop of just a reverb and a delay back into my audio interface. It's not that complicated of a signal chain at all. And I think it sounds pretty good. I think it sounds pretty accurate in my opinion. I don't think that there's many videos on it out there, so I decided to try to put one out there just to help you guys out, just to get this information out there. But you can do this using any guitar, using any amp modeler, as long as you have access to at least some of these effects. And we'll break those down in just a second, but yeah, you'll get kind of a good idea of the fundamentals of creating a sound like this and how that can be applied pretty much to anything, regardless of whether you have a helix, a hotone, a quad Cortex. I mean, you can. So this patch will just be available for everybody. You guys can just download it. But if you guys can create something better, that'd be awesome too. This is at least lays a groundwork, a foundation. I feel like it's pretty close, but there could still be more added to it. And if you have a pedal board, of course, you can just literally create a similar signal chain. I'll explain what's going on here in just a second. Mk.gee has a bunch of boutique pedals. He uses a baritone guitar, but we're going to be using, as you can see already over here, some pitch shifters. And with these, we'll get that baritone sound without needing a baritone guitar. So I'm just using a standard scale Ibanez into a bridge pickup, and everything afterwards is mainly the quad Cortex, and this effects loop is pretty much turned off. If you don't want to use it, you can. Sorry, I meant to say if you don't want to use this, you can turn it off, and you can just use these two. That I'm trying to make these as similar as possible to my two pedals that I have in that loop. And that's just for y'all that don't have your own pedals. It's pretty much the same thing. It's not a drastic difference. But this is going to be a sound demo for Are You Looking Up? And I have to pull the tab. I'm not an amazing player, so I need to be looking at something. I think it sounds pretty close. The gist of it, when you're going into his actual video, this is a good spot maybe. I could hear some octavers. It may have just been because he's playing a baritone. I heard some octavers and also heard almost like an acoustic quality to his playing, but obviously he's playing his Jaguar. But I found this little patch on the Cortex cloud, is what it's called. Euro DSP's sort of cloud for patches and stuff. And this user over here, a big dog, made this patch mainly to simulate an acoustic simulator. There's no acoustic simulator built into the quad Cortex, so he did his best to try and recreate it. You can see he has a bunch of EQs and compressors going on here. I deleted these reverbs and stuff. I don't think there was much of a need for most of them. Just the last two, the slapback and the room reverb. But mainly everything else is about the same. I'm guessing most of this is really the compressors and their different attacks and releases, making that kind of acoustic effect. Like I explained earlier, these are the pitch shifters just to bring it into the baritone range. You can also hear some modulation, so I kept that in there. I just upped the values of the mix a good amount, and I changed a few other things here, but it's nothing too crazy. And then that just goes straight into my effects loop, but of course you guys can activate these too. But it's not anything too crazy. If you have a baritone guitar, it'd be much better. So you can just turn these off. If you turn these off, it sounds way cleaner. From here, it'll just go straight into some acoustic effects, to modulation, into some reverb, and that sounds like it's going to be a different key, obviously, but this is what it sounds like. So you can see you still have that acoustic / 12 string or whatever the heck effect you want to call it, and it still works out fine. But the pitch shifters are actually pretty necessary for getting that lower tone, which is a lot of the bass you're hearing throughout. But that's how I recreated. I feel like there's a little bit more of a stereo effect. It's a little bit brighter, his tone, and you can use this, but the only thing is you're going to hear some artifacts in there, which is why it's better if you had your own baritone guitar. It's going to sound like this if you have just a little bit of a treble boost. There you'll really hear it, especially blending just higher pitch and lower pitch notes on wide opposite ends of the spectrum. You'll start getting more of that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Are You Looking Up? And then literally for big mics, all I did was slap a fuzz on the front, and it sounds about the same, I feel. If you go to big mics, this is what you hear. I like when I come and say, I might drop to my knees, so you see, it sounds like a fuzz, especially when he's on the lower notes, but it sounds closer to like an overdrive almost once he transitions to the higher scale. So disclaimer, this is changed up from what you'll hear on this other patch. So this is the patch I used for that original recording you heard in the beginning of the video. I feel like this is a little bit better. in my opinion, just because there's less fuzz. I mean, this one sounds awesome on the lower notes, but once you start going into playing little flares, playing little lead lines, you're gonna start hearing too much of that fuzz in there, and you don't really get that string definition of all the individual notes. He's able to play super dynamically. Like, he's awesome at being able to modulate between really thick sounds and then going into small little flares and going just from loud to soft to loud to soft. But this is what that first patch that you heard earlier sounded like. Turn this on. So that's what that sounds like. Problem is when you try doing things like his little flares over here. So there he's super soft the way he's playing. You can kind of get there if you use your fingers to strum instead. But it also gets pretty muffled and drowned out. But you'll really hear where it struggles once you get to about over here. Right there, on that. You can see there's just no way. I don't have my tone turned down. I don't have anything turned down. Even if you use a pick, it's just way too dark. So I feel like this gets a lot of that a lot better. A lot of that tone a lot better. Sorry. It's just way clearer, way more defined. You lose a little bit of that low end grime. You just hear so much more definition in everything else you play, which I feel is important if you're gonna play anything more than just that main melody. These are meant to be used together on Are You Looking Up? I have this turned off, sorry. And here I have both of these turned on. And this EQ is just to give more definition to the top end. Just because without it, it just sounds a little bit too dark. So I think it sounds pretty good. I think it sounds pretty accurate. I was surprised to see that the acoustic simulator worked on top of everything. This modulation is actually behind the drive, so I'm driving the modulated signal. Sounds kind of weird in theory, but it works out. I feel like it rounds out the sound more if you turn it off. It sounds okay on the higher end, but on the lower notes, it really struggles, I think, to keep that quality. And then, of course, if you have it after, you're just going to hear too much of the modulation. So I feel like before, it helps to round it out. It's a good, nice in between of all those sounds. So that's how I made this patch. Of course, if you guys want to use any of these, or either of these patches rather, they'll be up and available on. But yeah, if this is a sound that you want, this is how you get it. Thanks for watching, guys.